Hi everyone, I'm LVA Executive Director Kristian Anderson. Thanks for joining us today for a hot take on the contemporary art scene in Louisville. I'm sure you've heard it before. I don't know, I was coming in with a joke. What can I say? Melanie Miller, Casey Hyland, thanks so much for having us. Hyland Glass, or is it Hyland Glass? What's the official title?
It is Hyland Glass.
Hyland Glass. What a beautiful space. It's so open, it's so light, everything that you think about with glass, but that's probably, there's probably more to it than that. Tell us a little bit about glass arts, some of the common sort of misconceptions you have, and what you want people to know about glass art.
About glass, well, that we're still here. we're still hot, and at first I do want to say Louisville has been very supportive. This past year in every capacity, from the banks that we work with to just even Forward Louisville, as far as helping and being financially supportive for the crafts. Because glass, as you can see, I mean, we have about 3,000 square feet with everything, and so it takes a lot of facility to operate, to not only entertain, like in our gallery space and the feature artwork, but then we have different working spaces. Like behind us, both the hot shop, and then outside of the hot shop, we have to have space to actually put things together and cut and grind, and so all that takes a lot. And so that's really the first thing I do want to say is that I think Louisville's been very supportive so far up to now this past year, and we're very appreciative, for that. And yeah, we love our neighborhood. We've been here at this location for 6 years here in Butchertown. And it's been very supportive, and it's been very. I mean, this was supposed to be a very exciting year, of course. The stadium is open this year and all that stuff, and we're still very excited for that. So
what I think when you say glass art to people, you sort of get two things. Either one, people jump to Venice, and so they're going to start thinking of Venetian glass, or perhaps two, they're thinking of, oh yeah, my Aunt Gladys does cute stained glass in her house and does little things, but I don't think a lot of people know about casting. I don't think a lot of people know about slumping. I don't think a lot of people know the difference between blowing something versus torch work versus all of that. So what are some of the common misconceptions when you say glass art that you think that people jump to, that you, like myths you want to bust or things you think people should know?
Well, I mean, I might have to differ. I think, we've been in business in Louisville for 18 years. And we were at 9th and Market for a while, to where, it's a much more mainstream sort of phenomena. And surprisingly, I think people are becoming relatively educated with glass. I mean, the American studio craft movement's about, 60 years old. So it's not like it just happened overnight. And I think there is a larger understanding, where most, people know Chihuly. And they might even know Seattle. They might know a couple things. So I think there are expectations when they come in, and like the chandelier above you. It's very familiar, for people as far as being able to appreciate and experience some sort of wonderment that comes with the craft, that people that something like that Chihuly has educated the more mainstream public about. So I don't know if there's really too many misconceptions. I think people, for us, and our entire career has a lot of it has been about education. That's why we've invested, in this property and being close to downtown, to the convention center, to the Yum Center, to all these different things, so that you are a part of, the civic fabric, so people can come and learn and and check you out, with everything that you do, from ornaments behind you, to the sculptures, to lighting, to all that, to all those different products, that I think people expect.
Talk to me a little bit through the creative process about when you want to make something. What's the first? What are the steps that what do you start with, and how do you sort of get there?
Well, for me personally, my creative process is a little different, I think, than when we're working with glass, as far as the lighting, etc., because it's usually form and function. For me, I'm definitely driven more. It's definitely abstract, and my work kind of comes from the Akashic realm. I do a lot of shamanic journey work and meditation work. So my work is definitely more avant-garde. It's more of a download, I think the most sort of literal object that we have in here that I've been kind of the catalyst for are like the ropes. I had a dream, and in my dream there were all these piles of like bones everywhere. And when I went over to the pile of bones in my dream, as I started to touch them and pick them up, they turned into ropes. And so that kind of became more of like this venture into lifelines. That is like how the ropes came into play.
You know, people always ask me, you know, what's your favorite project? And my stock answer is, well, the next one. You know, because it's really about, because I mean, that's what I've always enjoyed. I mean, obviously I've enjoyed, putting together a studio and having other creatives. You know, like today we have a good friend that's traveled from Hawaii. We have another guy coming in to where, you know, there's a facility. But it's also just about, it's about tinkering, you know, and for me, and being able to figure, you know, stuff out, and ultimately, as a glass maker for the last 25 years, just kind of allowing the material just to be the material, you know, without trying to get in the way. We work with liquid sand, you know, and it's straightforward definition. You know, we take silica quartz and we heat it up and create crystal. And so, yeah, so there's something very transformative, you know, with it just innately in the material.
It seems like there's a lot more of just a community focus, even with the tools and the stuff necessary to run the shop, that breeds sort of maybe more of a collective nature than the sort of myth of the solitary artist.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It does. And for one thing, because glass is so exceptionally expensive, maybe these artists out here would, in some part of their vision, love to have their own private studio, but it's just not feasible for everyone to have their own studio. And so it does become a collective community in the space. And what's really great about our kind of community that seems to come here is that over time it seems like everybody's work sort of converges, but yet doesn't necessarily overlap. Like everybody has their own clients. Nobody's like competitive with one another. If there's a job that comes our way, but aesthetically we know it's not something that we're interested in doing, we have somebody else that we can, pass the job along to. And so that's really sweet because we're just here to support one another as much as we possibly can, for sure.
So how does one sort of one get into being a glass hobbyist? Painting or drawing, you go down and you spend $50 and you get some stuff. But do you guys teach classes here?
We do have the Saturday workshops where you can schedule online to come in and choose the. We have several options. We have glass ornament floats, we have pumpkins, we have drinkware. For those that are interested, but they don't necessarily want to commit to 6 or 12 weeks of lesson time, just to sort of wet the palate, so to speak. Especially since that Netflix series Blown Away, people are definitely super excited to come in Blown Away.
So you were mentioning Seattle, and I lived in Seattle for 8 years, and I really was struck by this. We're not often a tourist in our own city. I would go to the Space Needle only when someone came to visit. We should go to the Space Needle, and I'm sure Louisville has those things too. I'm sure how often, unless you commute over the Golden Gate Bridge if you live in San Francisco, that kind of thing. But you were saying about the light fixtures. It's almost like being a designer or a tourist in your own home, in your own space every once in a while. How often do we step back and look at not only the ornaments in our home, but also the functionality of how we've set up our home? In that critical eye, where does stuff come from and where does form meet function? How often do we just step back and critically sort of examine our space? So maybe the challenge to people watching this video is to take an hour to walk through your house and pick out things that, where does form meet function, and how can I better enhance my space with something that's local and unique?
Absolutely. I agree.
But yes, I guess that's my challenge to people watching this video, or even people coming to Open Studio Weekend, either beforehand or after, is look at the space you occupy and think about, did the stuff get there by accident? Did it get there intentionally? What can you swap out to even make a space? I hate to use the term feng shui, but the space that's just more pleasant and more meaningful. Yeah, occupy your life with things of meaning.
Well, because everything has an energetic signature to it. So if you walk through your house and you're not, it doesn't bring you joy, or you feel like, the vibration here is like, why do I feel sad or happy or not as excited to be in this particular room? If you start looking around at the aesthetics and the way that you've decorated it, perhaps a lot of this stuff is not handmade. Perhaps it all came from a mass-produced box store. And things that are handmade have a different energetic fingerprint to them. So they have a different feel, a different vibe, and so that is huge.